Good afternoon, dignitaries on this side of the dais and dignitaries on the other side of the dais. First of all, thank you for Mr. Kulbir Singh ji for inviting me to this particular gathering. I hope I would be able to add to a little bit of my knowledge to this bigger knowledge bank. So, to really go into the details of my presentation, what I normally do is when we are sitting after lunch in a cozy room like this, artificially lit and comfortably seated, it becomes very easy for us to forget the realities of the world or the nation as such outside. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a country where the lights, fixtures, and several things that we discussed today are not yet achieved or not yet reached to those people whom, really, perhaps this particular technology has the potential to change their lives. So, ladies and gentlemen, when we deliberate upon these cozy rooms, we have a bigger responsibility because we are not only talking ourselves, but we are talking on behalf of many of our people, communities, villages and cities and so on and so forth. What we deliberate here has an implication which comes out from this room. It goes to several places where probably policies are formulated, decisions are taken, and then that eventually results into the intervention in the lives of many people. So this is very important, and I feel myself privileged to be sharing my own take on this technology and inform you about some of the activities of the government to this audience. So I was given this topic by the organizer that I need to speak on current scenario and future vision of driving LED industry in industry and whatever intervention that the government is doing. So to go ahead, again, we need to have a, you can say, this larger perspective where we are living in a time when this particular modern form of energy, what is called the commercial energy or the energy which is have a higher grade of usage, which can be used for very several purposes at the same time and so on and so forth. It has a very unique characteristics. Particularly, we normally get hijacked by the energy means electricity, and obviously so, because this is one of the very visible form of energy that is we see. So you would see that this energy has a very, very strong linkage with the living standard, what we call in the broader human development index, which is composite of education, literacy, and the health. So the lighting has an implication on all these. So that is why if you see the interventions from lighting results into a huge gain in terms of education, in terms of economic benefits. Education, it helps elongate the, you can say, learning or teaching process. In terms of economics, it increases the working period and so on and so forth, and eventually also in the health. So this is a very, you can say, internal, mainly integrated to our lives in our times, that it becomes so related to our lives that we need to understand it's not a technical aspect anymore. The energy has to be seen from a very socio-cultural, all environmental and so many other factors are coming together. So in a country like ours, we are placed in a very, very typical situation. We want to grow at 8, 9, 10%. And we have around 400 million people do not have access to this particular form of energy. And so given this scenario, you would see that this, the supply, as the estimates show, is around 3-4 times that would be required in the times to come to have that kind of growth, that kind of access to the people. Then the economic affordability also increases the amount of energy usage. For example, if you see the electricity consumption in Delhi, for example, some people argue that the total electricity consumption in 2030 from ACs alone can be equal to the total energy consumption of Delhi today. So that kind of rapid appetite or the growth in energy consumption is forecasted. In that scenario, what options that we would have, those all need to be explored. And from the government side, if you all know, there is an act which tries to kind of incorporate efficiency activities, what we call Energy Conservation Act, that provides certain instruments that would bring some demand side management programs, and that would lead to efficiency improvement in the economy as such. And you are aware that there are market transformation instruments like standard labeling. Through that, we try to put some standards on the appliances, and that gradually it transforms to efficiency, higher efficiency level, and that's so on. And then building codes are being, you can say, formulated. And then of late, under called the National Mission for Enhanced Energy Efficiency, there is an industrial energy efficiency program mandated by the government. And so then there is another aspect to it. There is the industry or the consumer, anybody, there is a very common knowledge, common sense that one would like to have energy efficient appliances because it will save energy not only from a larger perspective but from a smaller perspective, that the energy is going to save his pocket, money from the pocket that he is drawing. So, but then the issues of cost and information and technology, things like that, all comes into being, as you all are very aware of. So the situation here, as I was telling, that lighting is one of the basic necessity of human society, and in a country like ours, it consumes around 18%, as against other countries you have varied. So we have a huge chunk of consumption that is going to the lighting sector. And the problem again that gets kind of multiplied is because this gets coincided with the peak. And as you know, peak prices are much higher than the normal base prices and so on. So this is the kind of estimate they give. Around 44%, almost 50% of Indian households do not have electricity at this point in time. So those are certain, fundamental realities where, and to say this particular technology, LED technology, is a technology which holds the potential because of its very characteristics of, as you all vouch for it, because of the ruggedness, because of its efficiency, because of its, you can say, what all, all weatherability and all. So it kind of suits the Indian reality that it can, probably, when it gets into this masses, it survives the, heat and dust and all that. So this would be a technology which would be just like a mobile phone. This would be a transforming, it would be a empowering technology for our country or our people or people of other nations of similar kind of economic situations. So lighting industry, probably this is also very known to this community, that it is growing at a very high pace, around 15-16% annually. So this is how the picture is. Then the lighting has its own components, like traditional lighting, and then the efficient lighting in terms of CFLs, in terms of LED. And if you see the CFL production, this is going also very, very, you can say rapidly increasing. And you would expect that LED would be, the penetration of LED in the times to come would be even steeper than what the CFL story has been. So the fundamental thing to understand is, I often show this picture that we are looking at a paradigm shift in the lighting experience that the humanity is going to have. So you can imagine an incandescent bulb with a gramophone with 60 or 80 parts moving back and forth and things like that. But then you have a technology like an MP3 player where you can play any song at any point in time from back to forth to end to beginning. So on such a capacity, this particular technology provides to the user or the designers or the technology innovators and so on and so forth. So this is a very, very unique technology in the sense that it can and also talk to the digital world. So this is very, very important as we get more and more digitized. So this lighting experience, so probably it's from, say, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, how the light has been conceptualized, utilized, and experienced would be very different than what we are doing today. Probably in the 30 years we will have fixtures very localized, maybe very customized. So you never know what only the imagination could be the limit for us. That how, for example, in a hall like this, probably we might not need to lit the whole places. Perhaps the middle one can be blocked, or the can be focused light, and so on and so forth. That can be programmed and used at a very little of human intervention. Or so that is the potential that I am saying that this particular technology holds for us. So what I am told is that the LED lighting business, which was in 2009 around 300 crores, in 2012 has grown to 1,250 crores, around 4 times, and it is estimated by 2016 around $1 billion business that is going to be in the LED business. So these are the kind of you can see the exponential growth that is expected from this particular technology, particular lighting appliances or lighting solutions, I would say. So the industry, there are several large industries, medium and about small industries in India. All major chip manufacturers have base offices in India, and they are also in the process of finding out ways to collaborate with Indian partners to, you can say, expand the business and getting into Indian market. Access to Indian huge market, binning and packaging has started in India. So the tie-ups and JVs are all is happening in India. And so the business as such, as I was telling you, that this is going to be, if you see the curve, it's going to be the exponential growth, and the only you can say the usage and how the demand could be created further would be the challenge for us to how to keep pace with this, and also to accelerate further than what it is, how the replacements happen, what are the programs that needs to be done, what are the business models that we need to bring out, and so on and so forth. So the technology issues are technology availability in India. Then you have the basic, a common person feels this particular initial cost barrier, because you can say life cycle costing concept is not yet penetrated into the mass psyche. So we need to also inform, educate, and communicate this kind of calculation from a broader perspective, not just from the the traditional what we seen, and also, for example, if possible, the externalities involved in the whole process of making it. So all these, if you put together, the technologies like LEDs become very competitive, and then the paying initial cost also become easier for the consumer, with the understanding that this is going to last for a long time, going to give a better quality life, and so on and so forth. Then, there are, again, the very realistic reality is that we, as a country, this is again obvious that this technology is very new in the country, and it is just progressing. The standards making process, the testing facilities, all these things need to be brought up to the kind of expectation that we are seeing, and then you would have the manufacturing basis, the product getting into the market with accreditation, certification, quality, levels that people will have the confidence on the product to use. So some of the initiatives that the government of India has taken, and there are something that are going on. The Ministry of Power has brought out a white paper for stimulating LEDs in India in 2011, and also did some kind of a demand aggregation study on the LEDs. And the Department of Electronics and Information Technology has a policy, what normally called is the preferential market access policy, where preference is given to the domestic manufacturer in government procurements. And then there are incentive schemes for LEDs and other electronic, and LEDs also, it gets these kind of benefits like 25% capex subsidy in the non-ACCs and 20% in the ACCs. So from BE's perspective, BE has been kind of engaged in the demonstration projects in the form of giving some pilot projects to supporting pilot projects with the municipalities, urban local bodies, and for streets or main roads or some secondary roads or whatever. And then BE has also been carrying out what the BE calls is a LED village program, where it adopts a village and it replaces all the lighting fixture with the LEDs. So to kind of demonstrate the technology and to do more of an outreach program, BE has been doing this kind of activities in the past. And to do so, some the support of the tune of around 50 lakhs are provided by the Bureau of Energy Efficiency. And now recently you can say under the Rajiv Gandhi Vidyutikaran Yojana, REC, the Rural Electrification Corporation, is going to implement this Rajiv Gandhi Vidyutikaran Yojana, which was earlier distributing CFLs to BPL households. Now the government is proposing to distribute LEDs. So it's about 27 million, over 27 million, you can say, households which would get LED bulbs for their lighting purposes. And also the government, through the MOP, through the BE, we support testing facilities. We give establishment support or the capacity addition support and so on and so forth. And BE has been also supporting Bureau of Indian Standards. As you have in the last presentation, you saw the 12 standards that has been brought out by Bureau of Indian Standards. So the Bureau has been closely working with them. And you also know that in the last budget, the excise duty on the LED lamps have been brought down to 6%. And then on the solid state lighting area, India also partners in the global scenario, a global partnership called Super Efficient Appliance Deployment of United States Department of Energy. So this alliance is a multilateral body which supports programs for accelerated introduction of or the market transformation of energy, super efficient, higher, very, end of the, you can say, technology, edge of the technology, I would say. So India has been, and India is still the chair of under this particular alliance, we have working groups on different sectors, like standard labeling working group, incentive working group, and so on. And in one of the working group, there is a collaboration under a working group called Efficient Lighting Collaboration, and where India chairs. India means the BE chairs, and BE being the lighting person, I happen to be in this particular position for last one or a little more than that. So in that whole alliance also, what the alliance, the countries are doing is, we are also trying to see, because we are talking in a international perspective, so we need to see the product uniformity, which product can be penetrate across the country. So trying to aggregate the demand for a particular common product and how to standardize it and aggregate the demand. And then once you have the assessment of the demand, then what is called this technology procurement, then you set aside this demand and assure to the manufacturer that you have this much of an assured market for you. Now the challenge for you is to come to the best efficient product, and the manufacturer would compete with themselves, and the winner would get the guaranteed, you can say, the volume of demand which is being identified. So that's how the technology is pushed to a higher and higher efficiency levels. So India has, also many of you know that under this collaboration process, a street lighting evaluation toolkit has been prepared, and which is a very handy tool to assess particularly the policy makers or the decision makers to understand, broadly, to have a broad picture of this. And it tells you the level of energy consumption, cost, and how, whether that is double-sided or single-sided, whatever, and the pole height and all that, manipulation, you can do it. And So, given this particular tool, municipalities are and other state-level agencies are encouraged to again take up demonstration projects for large-scale replication once those demonstrations are, taken up. So, that's just, I think, the information that I can add to this audience, and I thank you for this opportunity, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Ashok Kumar.